Greetings everyone and welcome to our Sabbath School Bible Study session. Today we are on lesson number 2 of our series titled Making Friends for God, the joy of sharing in His mission. And on lesson number 2 the title is Winsome Witnessing, which the author decided to take as the power of personal testimony. I'll ask the panel to introduce themselves, starting with the one to my far left.
Welcome everyone. I greet you in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. My name is Obert, Kwacha.
Hello, how are you? I hope you find you well. My name is Daniel Musundire, and I hope you're going to follow as we navigate through this lesson together.
Hello everyone, my name is Jason, and I hope we all learn how to be winsome at the end of it all. Let us pray. Dear Father, we thank you for the opportunity and privilege we have of meeting together to study your word and learn how to be winsome witnesses. We ask that you may guide us in our deliberations and also in the application of what we learn. I pray for this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. So I tried to look up the definition of the word winsome, and I found an interesting definition to that, and it says attractive or appealing in a fresh and innocent way, right? Some of the synonyms to that word are appealing, and there is engaging, right? There is captivating, and there is delightful.
Okay.
And the most interesting of all these was enchanting, which in my mind always relates to some magic, some mysterious powers.
Okay.
So I think today we're going to be talking about winsome witnessing.
Yeah.
I don't know if it will include magic, or in our Christian context we'll say miracles.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's all within the context of the power of personal testimony. Right, so I'll kickstart with a seemingly silly question, but it will help us as we go. What is a personal testimony? Right? Yeah, what is a personal testimony?
The personal testimony is exactly that. It is a personal testimony, and that means it's a testimony that is drawn from a personal experience.
Oh, yes.
I'm sure we all know the relatable experience of whenever we talk about witnessing these days, and when we talk about even testimony,
Yes.
is the court.
Yes.
You know, you hardly would talk about it and you don't give the example of the court, where you go to court and they always say the best evidence is testimonial evidence, but the same testimonial evidence is even the best when it gets to be the very personal.
Yes.
If it's not, they always interrogate and they cross-examine the witness until, probably if it is a defense lawyer, until they say, you know what, this particular witness is not reliable, because they've been flip-flopping on their story. Therefore, the unreliability of the witness then would also then poke holes on the testimony. And it being personal testimony now in the context that we're talking about today, especially with the word winsome, we are saying this is a testimony that is coming from a very, very raw place. It's a testimony that is coming from a very, very sincere place. That is saying, you can't argue with me.
Yes.
One thing that I know is, in as much as you may actually even deem my experience shallow, but this is my testimony.
Yes.
This is the point at which I believe I met Jesus. And take it, leave it, but it's as innocent as I know it.
Yes.
And it's as telling as I know it. So you'd find we're going to talk about probably the advantages of personal testimony. One thing about it is you can be as educated, Maqhawe, but there's no way that you can come to me and tell me that my experience is not what I'm telling you it is about. So which goes, I think, to say, even in our discussion today, there are also then the disadvantages that it also brings.
Yes.
What happens when people then worship their personal testimonies and all? Yeah.
That's interesting. That then takes us to what the memory verse says. In Acts chapter 4 verse 20 it says, for we cannot but speak the things which we have seen and heard. No, it's saying that the things that we can speak, or the things that we speak, are the things that we have seen and heard. And there is unusual power in a personal testimony.
Yeah.
You might take everything away, right, like he rightfully said. But you know, that this reminds me of a time when the Pharisees were up in arms against that blind man. And they were telling him that the person that you think is the Messiah is not. You know, and he says you can say all the theological arguments
But
about
one thing that
him,
I know,
but one thing that I know is I was blind.
Now I see.
Now I see. And there is unusual power in that personal testimony. And so I think what he said, that it comes from an intimate insight. It's like my story when I speak my story. So that's the whole lesson for today, and that's what we are going to be talking about. So maybe to kickstart, let's quickly dive into an area where God chooses to use people that are unlikely to be used to witness, right? Yeah, whereby God can pick a drunkard and use that drunkard to be a witness, right? They call them unlikely witnesses, right? And if you read in Mark chapter 5, verse 15 to 20, there is a story of a demoniac, man who had a legion of demons, and Jesus cast out the demons from the man. And then Jesus gives him a command and say, after the demons were cast out, the man says, can I go with you? And Jesus says, no, go back to your city and preach. Question is, why do you think Jesus sent the man into the city instead of spending some time with him and nurturing?
He needed that.
Yeah.
And also, the city itself needed to hear the demoniac before it heard Jesus.
Okay.
Because God always wants us to believe on the basis of evidence, not just to believe his claims.
Okay.
Because he made us intelligent beings. And so there's something powerful about a guy whom you all locked, you tried to chain, and you
failed.
You kicked him out of your community because nobody could relate to him anymore. And now he comes back and he is in his right mind. That would make you sit up and listen. And because it's a neighbor, somebody you know, as opposed to some guy who came across the lake. He's not even of your own ethnic group. It makes it kind of difficult it's a barrier to that sort of thing. Yeah. But also, I think Jesus is answering the desire of his heart. And this is one of my favorite stories, actually, in the Bible. It's like, I can see similarities between it and the world I live in today, because I live in a world that is very polarized, a world that dissects, and out of that dissection has come what we like to call cancel culture. Okay. You could have done something wrong 15 years ago, and you may have changed, but somebody will find something you posted on social media back then and move to ostracize you today. So we actually claim technology has brought us together, but in many ways our uses of it has it's made us lonelier. Okay. Loneliness is one of the biggest issues we suffer from as young people. And so when I look at this man, he's ostracized from the community. Yes, the demons had made him violent, but if you look at the response that the people had, was a violent response. And so what does Jesus do in a situation like that? He comes, and everyone has tried to restrain these demons with violence, but Jesus comes and speaks with authority. There's a difference between being authoritarian and being authoritative. Jesus is authoritative in the situation, tells the demons, yeah, I know there's a legion of you. And they had already spoken to him with hostility to say, when we get up, what have you got to do with this? And Jesus says, yeah, you need to find alternative accommodation. And the demons left. And if I were this man, my greatest fear would be those demons are going to come back. So I want to hang out with the guy who can chase them away. Then the guy who can chase them away says, you know what, go home. So he actually returns him to his community. The most painful thing you can do to a human being, the worst thing, is not even physical. It's to cut a person off from others, because we are social beings. But Jesus says, go back to the community, tell them your story.
You know,
And he went overboard.
Yeah.
He didn't just go
Yeah.
home. He went throughout the whole Decapolis.
Okay.
Yeah. You know that to me came as a challenge to also sometimes probably unwittingly we have this gospel of separation. I do not mean in the right way.
Yeah.
I mean gospel of separation in the wrong way.
Yeah.
Where many of us, when we give our lives to Jesus, this Jesus takes us away from our own.
From our
families.
families.
All of a sudden you now
Yeah.
you start looking at your own mother with suspicion. I've actually heard it in the Adventist church where people have problems with their smoking father. Like my father will never smoke when they visit my house. I've actually heard it in a church, and there you are. You begin to think, okay, in as much as you have the health message and you're trying to push this, but is it all to say you should then be separated from your own? I hope you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get it.
There's a separation that says come out of Babylon, isn't it?
Yes.
Clear cut. But there's certain separations which I think sometimes we push too far.
Yeah.
Where even God would not bless such separations. Where all of a sudden, you are now known for being one who does not even relate with their their relatives.
Yeah.
Your own brothers now look at you with this fear and they can't communicate with you.
Okay.
They can't relate anymore.
Your witness is no longer winsome.
Yeah, and the next thing that they always see is your Jesus being a barrier between you and them.
relationships.
Yeah, they're like, we can't reach him now. He's a
Yeah.
Msavata now. We can't reach him. He's an
Yeah.
Adventist.
Yeah.
After all these days, even the things that he eat, we can't reach him anymore. Do you
Yeah.
get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it came to me and said, Obert, we could be better off sometimes in the pulpits of our relatives and communities than the pulpits with Jesus. Do you get what I'm saying? Yeah, the pulpit at church, here Jesus is actually saying, I know you were going to come to it, Mark, but Jesus is saying, you are the most effective person in the Decapolis.
Yes.
Even Jason mentioned it.
Yeah.
You're the most effective there. Go there.
Go to those who
because
know you.
if now we come
Yeah.
there ourselves, they are looking at us. Some are looking at us as those who destroyed the pigs. Some are looking at us as the Jesus who is doing wonders there. They may actually start following us for bread. But you, go
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
And if you go back, we know you are the best preacher
Yes.
with them than even us.
So,
Yeah.
so just to add on that, so probably when that man looked at his life in the state that he was not aware that one day he could be a personal testimony, a powerful one for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you see, Jesus chose to pick probably someone who was extreme with a legion of demons.
Yeah.
Probably there were some with 1, 2, 3. So when he appealed
Okay.
to them, he would say, I was worse than you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Jesus that I'm talking about, you know me.
Yeah.
I think this, when I was
That's true.
looking at the issue of the subject of personal testimony in general, remember the overarching theme for this quarter is making friends for Jesus. So in other words, whatever that you are going to testify should be able to convince someone else who is
Okay.
not a friend of Jesus.
Yeah.
All right.
To say, if this Jesus managed to take away a legion of demons from you,
What more?
what more of me? Then they would probably follow Jesus. And one thing that I like, because the zeal which was in him was to win people to win people to the same friend who is Jesus. He didn't argue with Jesus.
No.
For whatever reason, to say I'm like what Jason was saying, probably I'm safer with you or whatever. He didn't argue because the desire was to win people for Christ.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Which speaks to me. Sometimes I find myself probably clamoring for the pulpit, but there is work outside which needs to be done, which is not the pulpit.
Yeah.
So the whole point is we are making friends for Jesus. So every opportunity that avails itself, I quickly grab it because my desire is to say, I want you to also befriend this man
That's
who
true.
has done this thing.
Amen.
Sharing his testimony was the most powerful inoculation against the return of the demons,
Okay.
rather than physical proximity. So even if, for me now, Jesus is in heaven, but sharing my testimony of Jesus with my experience with Jesus with others, actually, it One writer said, you can't tweeze sin out, you squeeze it out. So the demons don't find space in a person who's excited, who's enthusiastic about talking about Jesus.
Okay. While you gentlemen were commenting, there was a point that kept coming of Jesus using an unlikely witness. It raised a question in my head. I don't know who will take this one. Okay, so how we relate to unlikely witnesses, right? It's easy if you, like, let's say a big politician in the country, yeah, and they wake up one day and say, I've accepted Jesus, I'm now Seventh-day Adventist. What's our reaction to that? It's easy to quickly say, they're trying to win votes. Right? Or if a prostitute comes, an unlikely witness, and they stand there and saying, I've accepted Jesus Christ. Yeah. There is no miraculous story behind that. Okay. Right? And they say, I've accepted Jesus Christ. The women in church will be like, say, why is when you are fair? We are here to take our men. Yeah. Right? So how should we relate to unlikely witnesses? What's our part? I'm speaking from those who have accepted Jesus Christ. Of course, those who haven't accepted Jesus Christ, I think they can easily relate and say, no, this person, we know this person. She was like us. Now she's living a changed life. Right? But us, we have accepted Jesus Christ. Yes. How do we relate to unlikely witnesses?
We do like the old men who remained home. You remember the story of the prodigal son?
Oh, yes. Yes.
The
older brother.
Yes. Brother, when the brother came back, he was jealous that he is. So sometimes we feel that God's grace, in as much as we say it every day, but I think sometimes we doubt it, that God's grace can abound.
It's the power to change.
Yeah, we really doubt. And even if you check the story of Paul, where he went, they had the same problem as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, they thought, is it really that he has repented, or he's trying to trick us? Yeah, is that trying to know those that he is going to persecute?
Yeah.
So it is our problem. We remain with Simon the leper when the leprosy is already gone, and we even label such people. And we warn our children not to get too close to them. Remember, this person's past, because he might be tainted as well. So it is a problem for those that are converted at times, or in most cases, to accept such.
It actually shows in the story of you remember when Jesus Christ resurrected, and Mary goes. Mary was an unlikely witness. Mary, we know her past, right? And Mary is the one who receives the news that Jesus is risen. And what really beats me about the story is Mary didn't even doubt. Mary accepted the news that Jesus is risen. But she runs and talks to the people who had spent 3.5 years with Jesus, and they don't believe it. Why is it these people who had spent, and Jesus had told them every day, I will resurrect the third day. And they didn't even believe Jesus Christ when Mary brought to them the news of the resurrection.
I personally would think this is where it becomes important not to institutionalize witnessing. Probably the challenge we are is witnessing belongs to, we have institutions, we have rules, we have protocols of witnessing, which would have been a challenge for Legion and even for Mary. Mary would probably have said, Jesus, you probably need to appear to the leaders before you appear to me. Imagine with the attitude that we have today, all of a sudden some guy who is not even a deacon comes to church and they want to preach that day, and they're saying they have a message from the Holy Spirit, and there's a message for the church. We'll start by vetting them. We check where their name is, whether they are good in regular standing. We call the treasurer. If they're not appearing, then probably I'm not saying order is wrong, but I'm just saying it's a challenge when things that our experiences, we should be pushed from a personal point. We are now trying to run them from an institution or from a body. Mary, Jesus appeared to Mary, and I always think and believe that Jesus appeared to Mary first because he had appeared to Mary first as a dead Jesus.
Okay.
Remember when Mary wanted to be stoned?
Yes.
Yes, and Mary appreciated when Jesus was saying, go and sin no more. Jesus was saying that because Mary took the life and Jesus took the death.
Okay.
So
All right.
her appreciation of substitutionary death is the reason why Mary is the good candidate
Yeah.
to be preaching of the resurrected Jesus, because she had witnessed the dead one. So remember, on anointing Jesus, what did Jesus say? She anoints me for my burial.
Yes.
You don't anoint a living body.
Yeah.
You anoint a dead one. So all I'm trying to say is every time that what Jesus is communicating to us, unlikely as it is, let's not make witnessing an institutional thing. Let's not make it a church thing. You know, when you were giving your example of a prostitute and all, you know, in my head I thought to myself, the challenge with us is we now want to make the former prostitute a Sabbath school superintendent, and we think that's witnessing. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We think that's actually working for God.
Yeah.
We made a work for God. Why? We made a women's ministries director.
Yeah.
But that's not a place.
Yeah.
Her best place is probably Sabbath spent in Barrow Street.
Yeah.
I
Talking to
know
a
that won't be an amen. Yeah, but that probably is her best witness.
Yeah.
Her knowing that Sabbath it sells, and Sabbath there are so many people who are there, and she's there, and she's like, girls, I no longer come here. Why am I no longer coming here? I met Jesus. And that's Sabbath, and you are at church.
Yeah.
And
that's her decapolis.
that's a decapolis.
Yeah.
So all we are saying is sometimes we then want to take those people.
Yeah.
We put them in this silo, and we put them under the personal ministries director. Now they are supposed to witness according to the personal ministries director and according to the church manual, which I'm not saying is wrong,
Yeah.
but according to the GC program as
Yeah.
well. But probably their reason Jesus is supposed to be preached now and not according to the plan of the church.
Yeah.
I think also another aspect that comes out is that God works with nobodies. That's something I find most profound. One of the profound things I find in the Bible is that God works with people whom you wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
I mean, even David's father didn't think he was somebody.
Yeah.
Because I mean, in those times, people were generally proud of their sons. So when the prophet says, "Show me your sons," he calls everybody except David. And God's like, "That's the guy I'm working with." He threw a heavenly concert for shepherds.
He'll share it with your thing.
I mean, if you're God and you're going to send angels to sing at the coming of the Son of God, you'd want them to sing for real people, not for shepherds. Not to be offensive, but from my understanding of their position in society, they were like today the people who drive donkeys in town. We don't really trust them. We want them to plow our fields and go back to where they came from. That's the position they had, the status they had in society, and those are the people who God threw a concert for. I think, but God needs PR, help with his PR. But he always works with nobody. He finds demoniacs. He works with Mary. Women could not give legal testimony in her society. They couldn't even own property. But she is the first witness of the resurrection. He says, go and tell those other guys that,
Yeah. So you're basically speaking about a life that has been changed. Yeah. And God usually works in places where the people would appreciate his grace. And they really appreciate that God has done something.
Yes.
The power of a changed life. So what difference does a changed life make? And maybe we can give examples from the Bible, right? Yeah. What difference does a changed life make?
It's the only argument that nobody can counter.
Okay.
It's one writer said people can counter our theological arguments, all our reasoned arguments, but the testimony of a changed life, a loving and lovable Christian, there is no argument against it.
Yeah.
So you see, when we are talking about using a personal testimony to win someone to Jesus, so the examples that we have in the Bible, if you check, for example, in Acts chapter 4, they are talking about Peter and John.
Yeah.
Were known not to be learned according to the custom of the time or the learning of the time.
Yeah, yeah.
But when they listened to them, then remembered that they were not learned. It spoke something to them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's just for theoretically say probably Peter was actually learned like Paul, and then he says what he was saying. What message was it going to send to those that were hearing it? What I'm trying to say is God would choose certain things that you know will speak to the hearers.
Okay.
Yes. For example, if I am to speak my personal testimony, remember we're talking about personal testimony
Yes,
in
yes.
the context of winning someone to Jesus.
Yes.
So the person that I want to win to Jesus should be able to see the power of God in
In
changing
your
me.
story. Yes.
If I say I went to university without knowing the history of Africa, I came back and now I know it because I was studying history, that person might not see the power of God in me.
Okay.
But if I say I was not able to read, by the way, I know pastors who say I can only read the Bible.
But I can't read anything else. Yeah.
But give me the Bible, I can read. You
Okay.
give them a newspaper, they can't read. So, if someone like that tells you that the reason why I can read the Bible is because of the power of God,
Yeah.
it's different from someone who says, now I can read the Bible, I can read the Shona Bible because I was playing with Shona speaking people or something like that.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Then what I get about Paul and not Paul, Peter and John,
Yes.
the experience. When they've experienced the power of Jesus, something happened to them. I will just mention one. They were willing to be persecuted or to go all the lengths for the sake of Jesus Christ.
Yes, yes.
Because something has happened in
In
them.
them.
So experiencing the power of God would enable us to stand for whatever the consequences
Okay.
when
Yeah.
it comes to witnessing for Jesus.
Yeah.
So when we have experienced the power of Jesus, we wouldn't mind the cold. In court, I'm not saying we should unnecessarily expose ourselves. We wouldn't mind the rain. We would mind the hunger as long as we are pushing the mission of Jesus Christ. And even if you look at the life of Jesus himself, the disciples were worried about food. They went into the city and they say, you are hungry and you are still preaching. He says, I'm about my father's business.
Yeah.
But because top notch at the top of his mission is winning souls for Christ.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I got, that when you experience the power of Jesus, you can go all in terms of witnessing for Jesus.
You know the other thing. Let me just. I just want to add to what Obert was talking about, and Jason also mentioned the issue of a changed life being one that you cannot argue against.
Yes, yes.
I know for us sometimes it's easy to pick the bit that talks about them being unlearned and to just talk about education. It's easy to do that. But for the people who were living in the society, it was more. There was more to it.
Yeah.
For starters, we all know that reading letters, even Jesus himself at one time was accused. He cannot read. He's not learning.
Okay.
Yeah. How come he is reading letters? Now, if you get to take a look at fishing as an occupation, you would appreciate the position or the place in which these people were coming from in society. These were, in our day, people that we would call Owind.
Okay.
There are people who are doing that which can be done by anyone.
Okay.
Yeah, we stay close to the sea. Surely you cannot go to town about you being a fisherman. Really, that's what every other boy would do.
Yeah.
That's so. Some have even said, even their socialization. Talk about the city that they're coming from. The city they're coming from was well known for being the core ghetto of the time.
Yeah.
These are people who even probably vulgar would come very easily.
Okay.
There are people who are of such a life. We have Peter here, and we have John. John was known to be a son of thunder.
Yeah.
People who were known to be bouncers of the day. If you have an issue, you take it to John. John would thrash someone. Yeah, and these are people now where they are being seen preaching.
Yeah.
And what strikes people, apart from the verses, is we know these guys.
Yeah.
We know their lives.
Yeah.
Yes, they then mention the issue of they're not learned, but all that they're saying is, we even know their background.
Yeah.
That's what the core of that.
Yeah.
I know where this person comes from.
Yeah.
I can tell you that this person did not go to any rabbi, did
Yeah.
not go to, because I know the person.
Yeah.
But they have changed.
Yeah.
So you then find out that even the entire book of Acts of Acts chapter 4, sorry, when it then gets to end the chapter of it, it emphasizes the power of a changed life.
Yeah.
It even ends by saying, you know, people now had everything in common. No one lagged during that church. They would sell their belongings, bring the resources together and share amongst themselves. And that is the account of Acts chapter 4, apart from the verses and knowing things by head. So I think from all those personal testimonies that we're talking about, if there is no change of life, you are just telling us another chapter. You're just saying, you know, this is what happened. I then did this, but well, I then realized that I cannot live without super. We are back with super. And so if there is no changed life, then the testimony sometimes can be watered down, for lack of a better phrase.
So something that keeps recurring, if you notice, is the idea of these people. You talk about the disciples when they would give their testimonies. It seems at the end of it all, Jesus was seen. Like these people looked at these guys and they could not ascribe their boldness to anything else, but they just said, these people had been with Jesus Christ. Right? Don't we do that sometimes, that when we give testimonies, in the end we are the heroes of the story? And people are like, oh, so this guy actually is a and we are the heroes of the story.
I think also what I wanted to mention with the talking about changed lives, I think you also want to run away from becoming a legalist. To be quite honest, before I actually read the book of Acts through for myself, I had this image that's usually presented of people who, after the day of Pentecost,
they were
became
perfect.
And then I read the book and I'm like, but these guys are a bunch of idiots, you know. Look, your church, Peter's in jail, you're praying for Peter to get out of jail. And the maid comes and tells you, you know, your prayers have been answered. He's at the door, you're like, you're disturbing us, we're praying for Peter. You think, okay, so what are you praying for? You know? And you look at Peter, he still had issues with racism, because he could eat with Gentiles, but when a high-powered delegation came from the Church of Jerusalem, he stopped eating. And after a while, you know, I guess the false image in my mind was falling down. And so that's why I thought, these guys are a bunch of idiots. And then I thought to myself, but wait a minute. I'm an idiot too at times. And the devil will come and say, you know, you're an idiot, Jason, you should give up. And then I think, no, but I know guys like that who didn't give up, who stayed with the course. And if there's hope for them,
there's hope for me.
So conversion is not a once-off experience.
And also it's not when we talk about a changed life, we're not talking about somebody who suddenly didn't have any problems. Because they had problems, but they worked through. The change was it went out through a lifetime.
And the change is not an event. Like you continue to grow daily. I've had people who rely on their personal testimonies as if that's a qualifier to heaven. Now, this has happened, and so I qualify. Or you've had people who say, grace, I've been changed. And which word do they use? I was saved. And so whatever life I live from now doesn't matter. I was saved. And so like it's an event. And so saying...
I wanted to speak to the issue of the changed life. Commenting on 1 Corinthians 5:17, somewhere that I read, I can't remember which book it was, but it says that when someone is truly converted, there should be a marked change in their life. Then the writer went on to say what they used to like, they no longer like. What they used to hate, they now like. So, if we have experienced the power of Jesus, there should be a change in our. There should be a change in our life. And I don't know whether I will express it correctly, but it's a transformation.
Yes, it is.
And it's not a bit of I'm leaving this now. I'll leave this later. I want to balance it off with what Jason has said. It's not a counter argument.
Yes.
But I want to balance it off to say that the power of God, the power of the Holy Spirit, should be able to do a transformation in your life.
Yes.
That those that are watching should also be able to see.
Yeah.
And then the other point that I wanted to mention, if you are using your personal testimony, it doesn't mean everything associated with it is also an approval from God.
Yeah.
The fact that, I think outside we were sharing about Jonah, that the fact that he wanted to run away, then God had to follow him. It doesn't mean that you should also do the same. Try to run away, then you get a sheep and you preaching the sheep and you all do that.
Yeah.
So when we even read the personal testimonies of Paul, Peter, and the like, it's not then to rubber stamp whatever that they experience. Certain things that are written in the Bible are written for us to avoid.
Okay.
That this was a man of God, but then sometimes he doubted. So you should not doubt.
Yeah.
So you should learn. I don't know whether it is by contrast. I know Dan wants to always use that, learning by contrast or by
this is what you shouldn't do.
Yeah. So basically, we are saying that your personal testimony or your witness is not a prescription to someone's life. Yeah. I've we always do that. Of course, there is an example here of 1 John chapter 1, verse 1 to 3 and Galatians 2:20, where we compare John and Paul. They had different life experiences. But one thing about the difference is that they both had a personal encounter with Jesus.
Yeah.
So if probably Paul later, or let's say someone else who lived after, maybe during the Dark Ages, and was reading the life of Peter in prison, right? And they are in prison, and they're saying Peter was in prison. So let me also, I'm in prison, and pray and see. Which we always do at times, to think that what happened to the other person will also happen to me.
Yeah.
Yet the other person is giving a testimony that I prayed, I had no child for 10, 15 years, and I got a child. But in your case, that's not how God wants to work with you personally, because probably you are not struggling in that area. And so in your case, probably you pray for a child until you die without having a child.
I think it's something that then speaks to growth as well.
Yes.
Allow me to just sidestep a bit and come back.
Yeah.
It even speaks to how we sometimes interact with biblical stories. Because in general, when we read a biblical story, it looks very holy, and it looks like that's how God works with people.
Yeah.
But we forget that these were human beings that one day we have to meet and share our own experiences too.
Yes.
You probably do not need to then be a copycat or a reflection of their own experiences. They also had their own challenges. You probably may have your own different ones. And when we're talking about sharing experience, it's only the sharing of experience that then gives life to the testimony.
Okay.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah, and sharing experience has to be as genuine as me telling Obert that, but I'm still struggling with this.
Yes.
But I know Obert was saying he wants to balance out with what Jason was talking about. But let me even saying something that then covers almost everything. Is to say, the change sometimes might not necessarily be instant on what you are doing.
Yeah.
But your attitude has to be instant.
Oh yes.
Your change of attitude has to be there. Instant. Yes, you may then struggle. Let's talk about smoking, for instance. This is a real thing. I know Obert would say, if it's a miracle, then it should come there and there. Yes, for some it can, but for some it might not. They still probably after a week they may find themselves having a what?
The urge.
Some urge or a craving, right? You get to talk to such a person. They don't want. They no longer want, like the quotation that Obert was quoting, right? What has changed? The nature. You remember, the nature is what Jesus died for eventually. It's the sin, the nature of sin, more than the act. So when that changes, you may even be so genuine to share the experience and say, you know what? I also struggled. A month after getting baptized, I still found myself one day almost about to light the cigarette.
Or maybe a little one.
Or maybe I actually smoked 10, man.
Yeah.
But afterwards I was like, oh, what have I done? I didn't sleep that day praying again.
Yeah.
But I am
sure that it's a battle.
It's an experience.
Yeah.
And when it's shared like that, I think we talked about it last week as well. It gets to where as a humanity, we then start looking at each other as people whose experiences can actually come together and build very one strong person who believes in Jesus, who saves.
Yeah.
You cannot duplicate subjective experience. You can't duplicate somebody else's subjective experience. You can't even duplicate your own. There's some things that God did for you because he was still a baby in spiritual matters. But as you grew up, he stopped doing. Because God actually wants us to grow up to be like him. If I were to summarize, if I were to summarize God's law to collapse into one tagline, it would be like me. And it's like teaching a child to ride a bike. If you're always catching him when he's about to fall, he or she will never learn how to ride a bike. There are times when you have to have the strength to stand and watch the child fall, because that's when they're learning, especially if they don't stay down. They get up, pick up the bike, and start cycling again. I know that from personal experience. I've lain in the ditch looking at the sky with my bicycle wheels turning. But I learned how to ride.
And so basically this whole lesson, what it's buttressing is the idea that there is power in a personal testimony.
That's right.
We can give many examples in the Bible. We can talk of Paul's testimony. Even testified to Agrippa and many other people who then looked at Paul's life and they said, but this man, what he's saying is really true. And for me, my key takeaway, I don't know what your key takeaway is, and all of you, I think in the next 2 minutes we can share what we think the key takeaway for this lesson is. But for me, it's the story of the demoniac and the Decapolis story. There's something that he said that really got me thinking to say. So when you preach to the people that know you and that know your life, there is more power in that. And have you noticed with us now, it's very hard to relate to the people who know us after we've been converted. And to be honest, it's very hard to preach to my own brother who I stay with. It's very hard to preach to your own wife because she knows you in and out, right? It's very hard to preach probably to your own friend. But it's easy for me to just get into a bus and start preaching because those people don't know me. I can start shouting and preaching because I'm not greeting anyone, I'm just preaching and going out. It's easy. But those that know us, it's very hard. Why? Because probably we haven't really had a changed life. We haven't gotten an experience. So when the life is changed, it's powerful not only to those who don't know us, but even those who know us will see that there is a change in our lives. I think we can just share what we think is the takeaway for the lesson.
So if you look at how Paul used his personal testimony to appeal to King Agrippa, there's something that I picked there, and generally in use of personal testimonies. But the way that I look at use of personal testimonies in this context is that we are looking at personal testimonies to win someone to Jesus Christ. Either they could be having more confidence in Jesus or they have never experienced Jesus. So when you choose your personal testimony, it should be with that objective in mind. I know you can have a personal testimony that does not speak to someone's situation. And probably in that instance, you might not need even to bring a personal testimony. I've met someone probably who lost a mother. I have not lost a mother. I can't then try to bring a personal testimony of something that I have not experienced.
That you have not experienced.
So use of personal experience should be something that should then trigger something in the person that I am appealing to be able to see the power of the God that I am talking about.
All right.
So one last thing that I wanted to talk about in the interest of time is what the writer that I quoted first earlier on said, experiential religion. Where we have really experienced the power of God. Sometimes we then avoid such opportunities. Like the man who was sent to Decapolis, he would have shied away, but he went. So sometimes we avoid circumstances where God really wants to show us, so that when we get to a time of crisis, we would have experienced God before. So that the crisis will not move us. Why? Because our experience would then strengthen.
That's good. That's great. Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, well, yesterday I teased you guys with a question. I said, what would you say to the thief on the cross if you met him and he said, I wish crucifixion would come back, because crucifixion is how I came to know God. And I would say to him, people came to know Jesus in many different ways. So what I'm saying is your personal testimony is powerful for you. It may or may not be powerful for the next person. So you share it anyway, and once you've shared it, it's done its job. That it's a witness is not a judge. They don't give the
verdict.
They don't give the verdict. They don't wrap everything up together. They just say, this is what I saw, this is what I know, and that's that.
And this is what I've heard.
Yeah. I think our prayer should be that if we have not experienced him, may we experience him.
Yes.
Today's lesson was even then speaking and saying, there's no one who is born a Christian. But more often than not, we always throw those statements carelessly. You know, we are born this. Because we do not have an experience, we want to hide behind that. Look for one if you haven't had an experience. Pray earnestly that the Lord gives you a true conversion. And you witness in the right context.
Yes, thank you. And the author here says something powerful as we wrap up. This says, the wonderful love of Christ melts and subdues hearts. Right? When the mere reiteration of doctrines would accomplish nothing. You know, sometimes we stick so much on doctrine, yet behind the doctrine there is no changed life. Right? So let our doctrinal beliefs be backed by a personal experience with Christ, and that will make a powerful, actually a winsome witness to bring many to Christ. I think we'll ask Obert to give us a closing prayer as we wrap up this session.
Let us pray. Our Father who is in heaven, I want to thank you, Lord, for allowing us to go through this study. We pray, Lord, that those that are going to hear and are going to follow this discussion may also find it necessary to use their personal testimonies to win some to Christ. At the end of the day, we want to be your friends and to bring other friends to you. Be with us, Lord, be with those that are listening, be with the rest of the studies that we are going to have till the end of the quarter. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen. Thank you for joining us today. Next week is a lesson that you don't want to miss out. It's very interesting, and I think it's going to be a powerful lesson. The title of lesson number 3 is Seeing People Through Jesus' Eyes. Please join us for that lesson, and have a good day.